Welcome back, everybody. 15 minutes before we're done, but this terror attack and the information far from finished. We're following what's happening in Paris. So joining us right now on the phone for the American Islamic Forum for Democracy is Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Doctor, right now we know that about 12, it looks like 12 innocents have been killed. We're looking at 4 others in critical condition. What stands out to you about this terror attack in the heart of Paris?
Well, our prayers go to all of those killed, and it reminds us that at the front lines in this battle against radical Islam is free speech. Our journalists, those who are willing to push the lines to protect and stand for the fact that we won't back down. I mean, this newspaper was firebombed in 2011. And, we know that our military has been on the front lines, as we saw in Fort Hood, and our parliaments in Canada. And now we're reminded that our media are also sticking their necks out. And we're also reminded, I've heard in some coverage that they had 24/7 protection at this newspaper since 2011, and they just pulled it back a few weeks ago. So it makes you your heart breaks that this happens right after that.
It does. Globally, though, things just seem to be getting worse.
They really are. And because our leadership in the West has not been willing to face the problem of political Islam and its lack of modernity, you see movements like the Pegida movement, which had demonstrations in Germany of 10 to 20,000 Europeans saying, you know what, we won't take this anymore. We want to stand for our nationalism. Our countries need to be protected from this radicalism. And unfortunately, that may not be the solution, but they don't know what to do because the leadership is not providing a strategy.
So you're saying in Germany, the leadership there has pushed back against those who want to rise up against the wave of new Islamic immigrants coming into their country, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the chancellor there rejected that movement as being xenophobic, which it may have some xenophobic elements to it.
So
but
what?
That's not the way to that's not the way to respond to it. And you're seeing the basically violence act out, as we saw in Australia and elsewhere, and they're not addressing the problem, and the people are taking it into their own hands, which is creating these violent breakouts.
Absolutely, and of course, this is making headlines around the world with at least a dozen people murdered in cold blood. You were telling one of our producers about how things are heating up throughout Europe, and you cited a mosque being attacked in Sweden that we hadn't even heard about.
Yeah, there was a firebomb, a mosque. No one was injured, and we're not sure what the sources of that were yet, but it just happened a few days ago. And, this is a sign of the fact that, again, this doesn't in any way legitimize any of this type of horrific act, but we have to remember that as long as our leadership doesn't address the radicalization of groups like ISIS and individuals who can no longer go to Syria because of the prevention of their travel, and now they are acting out in their homelands, as we see in France and Australia and elsewhere. And the response from citizens when their governments don't act is going to be to march, as we see in this Pegida movement. And unfortunately, some are also going to act out, as we saw in Sweden.
Are you saying that political correctness is putting us at greater risk globally?
It is. Because if you can't discuss the problem publicly and say, what is it about ISIS, what is it about these jihadists that's making them hate the West, and be Islamo-patriots versus being patriots of France and Germany and Sweden, if you can't address that, then the problem will fester and boil like a pressure cooker and explode.
Are you a Muslim, Dr. Jasser?
Yeah, I'm a devout Muslim. That's why we formed our American Islamic Forum, was to fight against the ideologies that fuel these radicals.
And have you been targeted because you say the things you say?
We have. I mean, that's the other thing I'm reminded is this attack against the media. We are seeing the same thing as these brave journalists, in that we want to be able to criticize those leaders in our faith, those imams who don't believe in Western society and our freedom.
All right, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, we thank you very much for joining us. As you're looking, brand new images, as you can see, emergency personnel taking to the hospital some of the survivors. We do know that at least 12 people have been murdered. 4 are in critical condition, as you can see, in the heart of Paris.
And Steve, as you brought up, 4 of the nation's leading cartoonists are among the 12 that are dead.
That's right.
Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, our next guest, a ranking Democrat on the National Security Subcommittee, joins us with what Congress has on the agenda now to make sure an attack like this does not happen here.